Naaman's a leper. He's hopeless. He's a dead man, and he's arguing in pride with God over the method God will use with regard to healing his leprosy. And so the retinue's waiting outside for the prophet, and the prophet doesn't even leave the house. He just sends his servant out and says, go tell him to dip 7 times in the Jordan. He'll be healed. Well, Naaman says, that filthy, stinking river? What? I've got 2 rivers that are really holy in my country. Why can't he ask me to do that? Why can't he send me to the 2 rivers that I'm comfortable with? Why is he telling me to dip 7 times in the Jordan? And finally, a little handmaid in his house says, Naaman, if he would have asked you to do some Herculean effort, if he would have asked you to do some really masculine, thing, you would have done it. And he goes, yeah, that's right. He goes, why don't you just do the simple thing and obey the crazy thing that God just told you to do? Are we willing to obey crazy little things? That looks stupid. Here's a powerful man with all of his elegance and his culture, and he's a leper, and he has to humble himself and strip off all of his garments and his clothes to a Jewish river, and he's got to dip in, and it's a very murky, muddy river, the Jordan. He's got to go in there 7 times, not 5, not 8, but 7. There's something about our pride sometimes God has to expose, because we're willing to do big things, but we're not willing to do things we perceive that are beneath our dignity. And so the prophet doesn't even come out of his house. He says, tell the man if he wants his healing, he will dip 7 times in the Jordan. Well, Naaman postpones his obedience. He talks about it. He manifests his anger. His pride comes to the surface. And there are times in life where we postpone our obedience. But by postponing our obedience, we're only postponing our blessing. See, Naaman was only postponing his blessing. He was only postponing his healing. He was going to be healed of leprosy if he just did a simple, stupid thing. Strip, dip. Strip and dip. That's it. 7 times. All he's got to do is go 1, 2, it's like Dennis's place, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right? And he's healed, and he postpones his own obedience with his problem. I can't believe this is insignificant. Why should I dip in a river? Wouldn't an angel come down and the sky split and lightning hit me in my, crown chakra and whoo, everything? No. Obedience is usually some stupid, dippy little thing that you have so marginalized that that's just so little. God, what's the big... Remember last week we found out small things are important. For want of the nail, the shoe was lost. For want of the shoe, the horse was lost. For want of the horse, the rider was lost. For want of the rider, the battle was lost. For want of the battle, the whole war was lost. All for the want of a nail. One little thing can be powerful. Naaman was only told to obey one simple command that was doable: dip 7 times in the Jordan. But he postponed his obedience. That's the first kind of obedience: postponed obedience, protracted obedience. And when we postpone our obedience, we postpone our own blessing. That's all. We're kicking against the goads, like the Apostle Paul was. God said, it's really hard, isn't it, Paul, to postpone your own blessing by kicking against the goads. You can do it, but it's absolutely miserable. So don't postpone your obedience. Obey. It'll only be something God has told you to do that is in your power to do. It's something little. But it's something that we're just not doing. And the more we put off our obedience, we're putting off our own blessing. So we're not hurting anyone else, we're just hurting ourselves. So the first kind of obedience is postponed obedience. But the second kind is called pretended obedience. In 2 Samuel chapter 5, there's a story. After Naaman gets healed, by the way, Naaman does rise to the occasion. He does humble himself. He does dip 7 times, and his skin becomes his baby flesh, and he's healed. So thank God. Good ending to that story. But as Naaman is healed, he's so overcome with joy that he offers a ton of money to Elisha. Did you know the most money you'll ever see is in the healing ministry? It is. That's the first thing that the text shows us. But as we look at the rest of 2 Kings chapter 5, we see the story of Gehazi, the servant of Elisha. And in chapter 5, verses 20 to 27, Naaman says, hey, look, I'm so happy, here's a ton of money. Well, guess what? Elisha says, no, I won't take a dime. Sorry, I won't take a dime for what God just did for you. And he sends him off. He says, well, can't I give you something? He goes, no, take your gold, take your silver. I don't want any. Well, Gehazi was Elisha's servant. And when Elisha walks out, Gehazi follows after Naaman and says, "Oh, Naaman," and he goes, "Yes." He goes, "Oh, one thing." He goes, "Is everything all right?" He goes, "Yeah, everything's okay, but, Elisha said he didn't want anything, but, two prophets just came in from out of town, so if I could just have some silver and some gold and a few changes of garments." And Naaman's so glad that he was healed that he heaps a blessing upon Gehazi, and Gehazi goes and he hides it. And then he goes back into Elisha. You don't want to try to lie to a prophet. Stupid thing to do. But you see what overfamiliarity will do? Overfamiliarity with the prophetic will get you to forget that you're dealing with a prophet. Stupid. So he walks in, Elisha says, "Where you been?" He goes, "Oh, nothing." He goes, "Really? Did not my heart go with you when that man turned against from his chariot and he gave you all of those things?" He said, "Now the leprosy of Naaman's family is upon you." After protracted obedience or postponed obedience, there's pretended obedience. See, Gehazi wasn't what he seemed to be. He appeared to be speaking for Elisha, but he wasn't. And there are times in life where we appear before people to be a certain way, but that's not really who we are. And you see, when your private self is different than your public self, there's a dissonance there. There's a leprosy of dissonance. There's a leprosy of uncomfortability. Most of our stresses and our strains and our worries and our concerns come as a result of some kind of duplicity. We're hiding something. We want to appear to be one way, but we're really struggling with something else. And Gehazi represents the second kind of obedience. After postponed obedience, there's pretended obedience. Gehazi wanted to look like he was spiritual, but he wasn't. He was really a liar. He was really subverting the work of God. And the church is full of liars. And the church is full of people that are pretending to obey. The church is full of people who are putting on the show, front-loading the Holy Ghost. You can learn every shtick in the book, and I can see them in a minute as a preacher. I've been around a long time. And you can bring anything. The people living in the deepest sin talk the loudest, shout the loudest, sing the loudest, and pray the loudest in the service. Hey! Committing adultery. Hey, lesbian relationship, how's that going for you? Hey, man, sleeping with your girlfriend on the couch, huh? And you're in house of God going, woo! See, there is a pretended obedience, and God knows the heart. God knows what's going on. God will deal with his own. You don't need to worry about that. If it's a preacher or someone in the pew, God has a way of dealing with his own, and he will get to you. He'll get to you, baby. If he hasn't, it's just a matter of time. So put it under the blood real quick, because Gehazi was found out. See, Gehazi did a huge thing in public. He tried to appear something he wasn't. He was pretending to be obedient to God. He was pretending to be a servant of God. But did you know God will always make sure that a prophet reveals that truth? It'll come back to you. Don't worry about it. Someone somewhere will know what's going on. You cannot live a totally hidden life. Somebody knows what's happening. And it will come out. And you can hold a beach ball under the water for a long time, but it will pop up. So don't postpone obedience. You're postponing your blessing, but don't pretend to obey. See, the answer is we need to just be honest about our private self and our public self. If you have a struggle, just lead with that. Lead with your limp. See, tell the truth. You can tell the truth around here because we love you anyway, and we're going to pray for you anyway. But if you try to pretend that you're okay or pretend you're super spiritual and you really just don't even have a life, that is not wholesome. But that's another kind of obedience that we need to avoid. After we want to avoid pretended obedience. So Gehazi Naaman got he got his healing. He quit postponing obedience, and he got an immediate blessing, a complete blessing. But Gehazi pretended to obey, and you get leprosy. Now, I'm not threatening you with leprosy. I'm just saying the leprosy we're talking about, it's just dissonance, unhappiness. Nothing's working in your life because your private self and your public self are to be the same person. That's God's goal. See, I don't get a lot of speaking gigs because they don't really know what to do with me or what I'm going to say next. But you know what? But see, that's going to come into vogue soon enough, and that's what people are going to want. See, I need to hear the truth. I need someone to hear the heart of God, and communicate it in a way that I can understand it, because I'm too stupid to be able to understand all those subtle nuances. So I need somebody to tell me like it is. There's too many people don't want to do that. But you see, God says, don't postpone your obedience. You're postponing your blessing. Don't pretend to obey. Be honest about who you are and where you are.